to what we just said about how we all know something's wrong with the world we live in, but what is that? What is the thing that's wrong? Well, an enlightened civilization, for example, would be a civilization where no being has any rights or powers that any other being doesn't have. Presidents, policemen, judges, nobody has any rights above anyone else in a truly enlightened civilization. So, does that resemble the world we live in very much?
Not
You're
quite.
like, no, we live in a very opposite world, right? There's definitely hierarchies of power and rights. We watch the FBI doing whatever they want these days, just right in your face, in the light, breaking every law and code that we have in our constitution, saying, what are you going to do about it? You're not going to do anything about it because we own you. So we're not even close to that kind of civilization yet. But what we have to know is that the law for mankind, common law, it's sometimes called natural law, it's also called, that is the law of an enlightened civilization, which is very, very simple, not confusing at all, and not complicated at all. It's basically the law of all men are created equal, all are beings of the creator, do no harm, don't cause harm or injury to anyone, always tell the truth, don't deceive people, don't lie to people, just be honest, be a good person, and do no harm. And if you do harm on accident, you make remedy for it. That's it in common law. So how do we get from that to this fake, crazy legal world where there's like 30,000 laws you can break without even knowing it, where you're doing no harm to anyone and you're going to be thrown in jail and imprisoned and fined and stuff? Well, it's basically the story of how bankers took over the world. As crazy as that sounds. And let's just stick with America, even though they've also done this in every other country. But let's just look at American history because we're most familiar with that. When the founding fathers created America, it was because they were leaving the European system in Great Britain that was set up this way too. Totally corrupt, taxation without representation was their complaint. And they were like, we just got to leave the system here. We can't beat it. They've got us so, pinned in, like there's no way we can beat these guys. Let's leave and start a new country. So they left to the United States, to America, founded this country, and they tried their best to set up our constitution and stuff in such a way that these banking elites could never do what they did here in England. And so they set up the constitution, and they did a great job. They really did. They set up, checks and balances, 3 different branches and all this stuff, Bill of Rights. And they made a couple of really important claims in the Constitution that you would think would have prevented what has happened today from ever happening. One is there is no involuntary servitude. No indentured servitude is allowed. So you can't put someone into debt and make them your slave, basically. But that is exactly what has happened here. And what happened is when the founding fathers started this country, they made it into a corporation. So if you look at the Constitution, it says, the United States of America, like in the first sentence, we the people of the United States of America. So that's the country, the actual physical place that exists, the land. And they only mention the United States of America twice in the Constitution, but they mention the United States like 20 something times, I think.
All caps,
That's
right?
all caps, yeah. And that's because they made a corporation out of the country immediately, which is what the banking elites always do. So really what we're saying here is that everything in our world today, from governments, police, courts, everything is business being disguised as governments, police, courthouses, and so forth. It's all businesses like McDonald's, like Burger King, like Dunkin' Donuts, pretending to be a government. So they made a corporation out of the United States, which may not be some Illuminati scheme, right? Maybe they had innocent intentions of like, oh, we just want to be able to do business as the United States with other countries. But nevertheless, they made a corporation. And that's where everything started to go south very quickly. Fast forward, past the Civil War, the country went bankrupt. There's no more money. In 1911, I think, was the meeting of Jekyll Island, where all these elite banking families, the Morgans, Rockefellers, Carnegies, Rothschilds, and so forth, they get together saying, how do we take this country over like we did in England, like our forefathers did in England? And the idea they came up with was, let's make another for-profit commercial business, and we'll just call it something federal sounding. And then we'll go into business with the for-profit corporation called the United States. And so they set up the Federal Reserve to print money and make that the Bank of the United States Corporation. So because it all sounds federal and legitimate, people thought it was.
Marketing.
Exactly. It's just basically really good marketing on their behalf. Mr. United States government and Mr. Federal Reserve Bank do a backhanded deal where they say, hey, you get into a bunch of debt to us, and we'll just print you infinite money, and then you'll have a really good reason to tax all your citizens to pay back this infinite debt you'll never pay back. And then we'll have this perfect like monopoly board scheme going where we just make more fake money that's not backed by anything. We print it out of thin air and we give it to you to do whatever you want with it. And then you just pay us back by taxing your people. And we'll both make tons of money and be rich and wealthy and own the world. So the question is, how do they tax a man or a woman in the United States of America if we're not in a business contract with them? Because again, they're like McDonald's or something running a Ponzi scheme. I don't have a contract to pay McDonald's taxes. I'm not paying them anything. So this is where the really seductive, sneaky, insidious plot was created to basically own everyone from birth as a kind of debt slave. So I'm excited to pick your brain about this more, but when we get into the money conversation, but because we know there was no more money, they took it off the gold standard, they got rid of gold and stuff. There's no money in circulation anymore. It's all debt notes. Mm-hmm. So what actually has real value anymore? Well, it's people, right? People have value because we, a man or a woman, have jobs, create things, take out loans, do business deals, buy things, on and on and on, build properties. So a person, a man or a woman, rather, not a person, a man or a woman has
a people. As weird as it sounds, it's a people.
Yeah, the person is the dirty term that they use to get you. But so what they do is they make, just like they did with the United States of America, they make a fake corporation out of your name at birth. And whenever you see your name in all capital letters, that's the fake business they created out of your name. So like literally the Federal Reserve has a Dun & Bradstreet number. They're a private for-profit business and they print our money as a country. It's like so mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. Likewise, the United States is a business, not a government, with a Dun & Bradstreet number. It's a trust, right? So they make a business out of your name and they trick your parents into signing it on the birth certificate, because in the fine print, it's basically saying this whole estate is now property of the United States Corporation. And from that point on, they basically just trick you into representing this legal fiction, all capital letters out of your name, because, hey, you're none the wiser. You see your name on the paper, you think it's you, and you say, yep, that's me, and you sign away. Well, what they just tricked you into doing is entering a business contract with them, because that's the only way they can get you into their fake monetary system. Because otherwise, you're a free, divine, sovereign being who has no obligations to anybody but God. So they have to deceive you into thinking you're that corporation. Mm-hmm. Only people are real. A corporation can't actually sign a contract with anyone.
I think that this thread, I'm sorry to cut you off. I think that this thread that you're speaking on is one of the deepest and most profound ones. I had to sit with this one for weeks before it was really, like, when you can really understand, like, it's easy to just say money doesn't exist. People are the only value. It's like, okay, I see that. But no. This is like really deep. This is really deep. So let's try to really sink this in.
So only people have value because only people really exist, a man or a woman. A business, a corporation can't sign a contract with anyone because they're not a person who can sign something. They don't exist. It's a fiction. So they have to have people hiding behind these corporate veils and signing the contracts, right? Posing as a business. So what the Federal Reserve did is say, we're going to make all these people our assets by making a fake corporation out of them. We'll trick them into signing that they are that corporation. And then we own every cent of value that person will ever create in their life. So every job you'll ever have, every loan you'll ever take out, every business contract you'll ever get into, every cent that will go through you, they say now belongs to us because we own you. So every person is assigned at birth, every man or woman is assigned a certain dollar value by the Federal Reserve. And some people say it's like 17 million. Other people say, no, it's like 100 million.
Right.
We don't know for sure, but we know it's a lot of money because people write off millions of dollars of debt with their birth certificate once they figure this out. And it's like infinite supply of money. So you from birth are assigned a dollar value, an estate, so to speak, that the Federal Reserve says is ours, and they don't tell you about it. So then they make a trust. They set up a trust out of the government corporation. There is no government. It's just a business called the United States. That's the grantor of the trust, the creditor. And then the legal fiction of your all capitals names, they make that the trustee. And then they make themselves the beneficiary of that estate.
And this is called the sesquivi or sestique, depending how you want to pronounce it. But yes, so this is the trust that you never knew existed.
Yeah, you never have a clue this exists. They give you a social security number, which is literally your Dun & Bradstreet number.
Yeah, that's your EIN in commerce.
Yep, exactly. And you think it's my identification as a citizen. Well, sort of, but it's also really a business number. And so everything you sign, driver's license, social security, marriage certificate, mortgage, you're always saying, yes, 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 I'm that legal fiction, all capitals names. That's literally an account being held at the Federal Reserve Bank in San Francisco or something. And so then every time you take out a loan, this is the mind-blowing part, banks don't have any money because there's actually no such thing as a bank. You know, when you hear the word bank, what do you think of? Oh, a place that holds money for people. That's not what a bank is. That's what they pretend to be. What a bank is a fake business that creates money out of thin air by loaning money that doesn't exist. So you say, hey, I want to buy a house, $100,000 loan. The bank says, no problem. They call up the Federal Reserve and say, hey, we need $100,000 to be taken out of, all capitals, Aaron Scott Abke's Social Security account. So the feds write the money out of thin air, give it to the bank gives it to you. So they just loaned you your own money from your own estate that you don't know exists. And then they say, now you have to pay us back for this loan over the next 25 years or whatever the mortgage is. And you're actually going to pay us back with interest. So you're going to pay us back your own money. And then sometimes up to 4 or 5x.
We call that triple dipping.
Right. Triple dipping you, man. And you're none the wiser for any of this because you don't know who you really are. Right. So when people figure this out, what they do is you correct your status on the public record through some kind of affidavit, declaration of status. You say, I am a man named Aaron Scott. Apparently there's no last names in common law. It's the house name you were given.
Question for you on that.
Go for it.
Would you consider something like a revocation of election status correction, or would you consider that different?
It's definitely a record of status. I don't know if it's enough to really hold up in court, but I've submitted a revocation of election because, again, taxes are voluntary. So they opt you in when you say that you're that legal fiction business they made out of your name.
But Aaron, you're going to go to jail for tax evasion.
If you say you're the business, you better believe you are. A man or a woman can't be imprisoned for a business contract. Only
all crimes are commercial, guys. That's one of the most important things you can understand. If all crimes are commercial, whatever it is you think you would get in trouble for, that's not you. So the people that go to jail for these things, that tells me they seriously lack financial literacy, and they're also trusting the enemy who works for the bar. We could get into that, but you're asking your oppressor for freedom advice. That's the way I explain it to our students.
That's a good way of saying
Never do that, but then we go, I need an attorney because I don't know what I'm doing.
Right. In common law, there's no such thing as a crime where there's no injured party. So you get a speeding ticket, for example, and you just say, oh, who's the injured party in this crime? You're saying I committed a crime. Who's the injured party? And let's say, the state of Texas was injured by you speeding. Oh, really? Can the state of Texas show up to this court case, please, and tell me how I injured Mr. State of Texas? No, they can't because it doesn't exist. It's a legal fiction. So it's actually a business contract. It's an offer for a bill to pay.
It's exactly what it is. It's an offer. They're offering, would you like to pay me fraudulently?
For a law that doesnn't exist.
Yeah.
So getting back to the declaration of status, so you can do revocation of election, a declaration of status affidavit where you just say, I am a man. I was unknowingly made into a fake corporation at birth, social security number, blah, blah, blah. being held at this Federal Reserve Bank. And I am now taking status of as the executor of that trust. I am the executor of that estate now, not the trustee. I'm the executor and the beneficiary. So all the money that's attached to this all capitals name belongs to me now. Who is going to come into this court and rebut my claim? Does anyone have evidence to the contrary? Who's the claimant saying that I am not a man who owns this estate? And guess what? Nobody's going to show up and say, no, I own that estate, because a government doesn't exist. The United States corporation can't show up and contest you. No one's even going to try to contest you because they're going to admit and show the cat's out of the bag that this is a rigged system. So if you know who you really are and you declare your status, you can take back that trust and say, no, the Federal Reserve is no longer the beneficiary of my estate. I'm the beneficiary. And who's going to protest me? Nobody, because it's all fake. And so from that point on, and it's a little more complex than this with the legalese, but if you have debt you owe to a bank, remember, it's all money out of your estate that they took from your estate and loaned to you. So people are now going into court and discharging, and that's a key term, not paying, but discharging all of their debts through their birth certificate by saying, yeah, take it out of my estate, no problem. And because it's all just business, the courts just want to get paid. The banks just want to get paid. Nobody really cares what's right or what's true. They just want money. So you're just doing business at that point, saying, this is my estate. Sure, take it out of my estate. It's mind-blowing.
This brings us back to our God-given birthrights, and it brings us back to that powerful creator energy of realizing, like, you're not being oppressed by the banks. You're not a victim.
Yeah.
Like there's such powerful connotations here of taking your power back when you realize, like, you're the original creditor. You're the creator here, right? Co-creating with God, and you're the one with all the credit and all the life force. And it all comes back to words if you want to understand that. And as we say, understand that, because even the word understanding, what we're talking about words, means standing under. So when you get pulled over by a policy enforcer / debt collector that most people refer to as a police officer,
yeah,
and they have you roll your window down and they say, blah, 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 do you understand? And you're scared and you say, yes, officer. You just said, I stand under you. That was a verbal contract that you just not only gave them authority over you, but basically in so many words without needing to say it, said, I'm a statutory U.S. citizen and I'm under your jurisdiction. Please rule over me.
Right.
And that isn't how it works, because when you're dealing with natural laws, and when you, even from a spiritual perspective without law, one of the primary teachings of spirituality is that there is no such thing as hierarchy. No one is better than anyone else.
Right.
So there's a disconnect when you're a spiritual being and you're operating in a system where you're answering to another man. And it's true with this entire concept of authority.
Yeah. It's all the same thing, man.
It's all the same thing. Your soul is no lower than any other soul. So why are you answering to another soul? Why are you buying into this notion that, oh, well, they went to school and they got this graduate degree and they've campaigned for 15 years and now they're on the Senate, so they know best. It's like, they know best?
Yeah. How do you know that they know best? Even the driver's license thing you mentioned of getting pulled over, why do you think they want you to have a card with an all capitals names on it? Because they have to constantly trick you into giving your power away, because only you have power as a real man or a woman, a sovereign divine being. A corporation doesn't have power. A title doesn't have power. So when the police officer says license and registration, they're saying, before I can even interact with you, I need you to consent that you are the fake legal fiction name, and then I can imprison that name, find that name, give you a speeding ticket, do whatever I want, because I have authority over you. So by handing them a card, you're saying, yes, I am this fake legal fiction, and you do have authority over me. Now, of course, you're none the wiser to that, but that's how they get you. It's through deception and manipulation, because that's the only way to get your power, right? This is why everyone says it's a satanic system, a Luciferian system. They say, oh, it's all Satanism. And you go, oh, these kooky, conspiracy theorists. Well, what we're actually saying whenever you hear that term Satanism is that it's a philosophical claim, not a metaphysical claim, really. We're saying that Lucifer is, archetypally speaking, is the antithesis to God, right? God is love, Satan is fear. So only God can give free will, and Satan, being the inverse of God, seeks to do the opposite, right? Satan is that which seeks to take free will. But Satan can only take free will freely. It has to be under consent of some kind. So that's why Lucifer is called what? The great deceiver, right? Even in the Bible. So Lucifer does that, takes your free will through lies, confusion, fear, deception, manipulation. It has to play tricks on you, right? To get you to give your free will to Satan, to the system. So Lucifer sort of has to tell you everything that he's doing to you because it needs to be freely given free will. But Lucifer tricks you into not seeing the full picture of what Lucifer's doing to you. So Satanism as a term just means the inversion of truth. That's all it means.